And welcome to yet another edition of Wolverine Chat. I'm Tim. I'm here with my counterpart Nate, and there's so many things going on right now. We're gonna talk about the Michigan TCU game, of course, but that seems like it was years ago with everything happening. Just a crazy week for Michigan, as it seems to always be the week or two after the season ends. We're going to talk about whether he's staying or going. We're going to touch on some of the players who are leaving. Andrell Anthony this week announced he was entering the portal. Um, Ronnie Bell has decided to go to the NFL, which I don't think really shocks anybody. We're still waiting to hear about Blake Corum and seeing what's happening. I think he generally wants to stay. I think he feels guilty if he leaves, and then we'll touch on TCU versus Georgia. So the Michigan TCU game, Nate. I was there obviously, and I just have no words how that game started out with that big run. I was just ready to go out of my mind, and then they pull a circus move. Um, I'm going to say this, and I'm not any of these can be true. Michigan coached terribly in the first half. It was ridiculous. You put it, you run that kind of play on 4th and 1 when you've been bullying it in the end zone all the time. Here's the thing too: if you don't do that, and you just run it up the middle and you stop them. Now they had the ball at the 1 yard line, not the 12 line or 15 yard line. Secondly, why would you give Mullins the ball on guys was a linebacker, touched the ball 6 times or 9 times this year, hand off at the 1 yard line, and he fumbles. So coaching was horrific. Our offensive red zone, no words. 3 times we were within the 2 to 3 yard line, and we got 3 points. Absolutely ridiculous. JJ had, I guess you could say a good game, but then you could say he had a bad game. Those 2 pick 6s, three interceptions going into the game, and he had 2 pick 6s. Just again, all those things. One of those things don't happen. Michigan wins, and then I don't care what anybody says. Oh, you're blaming the refs. Just man up. The refs sucked. That was as clear a touchdown. And I'm going to say this, and I will stand behind it to the day I die. Yes, Michigan should have gotten in the end zone. It's ridiculous they couldn't get into the end zone on first down and they fumbled. Having said that, that play should have never happened. Michigan, it shouldn't matter. That was a touchdown. The announcers called it a touchdown. I watched it in replay. How do you overturn? They called it a touchdown. And then you look at it and say there's overwhelming evidence that that was a touchdown? No, it was not a touchdown. We should never have had to run that next play, and that could have changed the game. And then that targeting call. If that's not targeting, then I don't know what targeting is. Get rid of the targeting call altogether, because you can't call it and not call it. It's got to be either yes or no. He lowered his head. He led with his crown. That would have given Michigan the first down around the 50, 45-yard line with, I don't know, 30 seconds to go. Couple passes down the field, and they have a 20-yard touchdown. I'm not saying they would have won, but they deserved that chance. Having said all that, I am still extremely proud of Michigan. And JJ, say what you want. He put that team on his back in the second half. The problem is, why were they not running him in the first half? Why did they have to wait to the second half of the last game of the season and say, hey, wait, we got a guy with some good legs. Maybe we should run him. I mean, he was a beast in the second half, and I think he is going to be a leading candidate for Heisman. Maybe Corum might be also coming back next year. But so mixed feelings. I'm proud of how they fought to the end and really could have won, should have won. TCU, props. They were a better team that day, but Michigan is clearly, I mean, anybody watch that game, Michigan's the better team. And look what happened with Georgia and Ohio State. Ohio State should have beaten Georgia. And look what we did to Ohio State. I mean, I don't think anybody cannot say that Michigan probably would have been the national champion, but they're not. They lost, and they have to get this together, and they got to learn to. I think this year what happened in practice, like I said in my last or a couple podcasts a couple times ago at practice, Michigan was all dialed in. They were just all about winning. Last year, they were all about having fun, and they were doing all the activities. Jim said that didn't work, so we're going to dial in. TCU was having fun. So is it wrong to be dialed in? I think it's somewhere in the middle. You guys got to have fun. They got to be loose. They can't be you can't be 100% hyper active and ready to play 2 weeks there until the game. You got to have a couple, some time off to relax and chill. So something's got to be done in our preparation for bowl games and these big games. But hey, last year they, got killed by Georgia, but they made it. This year they should have been there and they should have won, in my opinion. Next year, I guess you could say depending on Jim, but I think, first of all, we'll get to Jim in a second, but I think he's coming back. Secondly, Michigan is going to win the national championship next year. Next year at this time, JJ will be holding that trophy, in my opinion. We are going to be a dominant team next year, and I just hope Jim Harbaugh doesn't screw all this up with all this stuff. 2 days ago or yesterday, was it Thursday, he said he intends to come back, and now we're hearing this crap about these interviews with Denver, although I just heard that Denver was interviewing Sean Payton, and that was their number one guy. So I'm still not freaking out, but Jim can end this by just saying nope, I'm not taking an interview. I expect I'm going to be at Michigan. But Michigan's got to step up and pay him. And we'll talk about that. But Nate, I rambled on enough about the game. You give me your thoughts of what you thought Michigan TCU.
Yeah, they left a lot of points on the field in the first half. They were inside the 5-yard line. They were inside the 5-yard line 3 times, and they came away with 0 points. 2 pick sixes. One of them, Ronnie Bell, ran a soft route. It was a lazy route.
It was still a bad pass, but
yes, it was a very lazy route in my opinion. Second half, JJ definitely put the team on his back and carried them to, they were down by 3 points at one point. And then I felt like this game was on the defense.
It was, definitely.
How you give up, however many points Michigan gave up throughout the whole season. I think the most they gave up was to Maryland. Which was, I think, 29 is what they gave up to Maryland. And then you let TCU put 51 points on the board, 31 in one quarter. It's just disgusting because Jesse Minter obviously didn't come out there with a game plan. And, I thought
we should have played a little softer and kept it because they had so much speed, but we were playing up front, and that one play 3rd and 9, we're down by 3.
Yeah, and you have a safety blitz that was super, super delayed.
A delayed. I'm not against that, but how they blitz, and they advertise their blitz all day, and get some guys back there. That was the one guy. So that there's a lot of things I lost, but that was the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, I was just overall very disappointed in the game plan and the overall preparation for this game. So, other than that, honestly, Michigan had a tremendous season. Fell short once again. So other than that, I honestly got nothing to say.
Well, I am, of course, I'm disappointed, and I was really hurt at the game, and I still am. But as days go by, I start to try to find the good and what's coming up next week. I'm trying to stay positive about Jim and give him all the benefits of the doubt than these allegations, which are ridiculous. And let me start with these allegations, okay? I am not saying it's okay to just not follow the rules, but first of all, this thing all started because he put a couple kids on a Zoom during 2020. NCAA is a joke. They literally looked the other way for years when NIL wasn't legal. And if you're telling me Ohio or Alabama and some of these teams weren't playing players, but whatever. Then NIL happens, and they blatantly talk about it. And NIL, I got some posts from some people who do not know what's going on, because when I said that these teams are, the play to pay was not legal. You cannot pay somebody to come to your team to play. They have to endorse. They have to use their name, likeness, and image. That's what NIL is. It's not come here and we'll pay you $1 million. So these high school kids, and there's nothing, they're not doing anything, but yet Jim isn't allowed to do that. And then he goes, buys them a hamburger. Now, give them a slap on the wrist if you want to, but to put it out 2 days before their national championship game, what is that? That's crazy. So the headlines are all about Michigan and Jim Harbaugh. It just irritates me. There's so many teams that are cheating and doing so much horrible stuff. Michigan, they're graduating kids. Their GPAs are high. They're doing it right. They're not cheating. And if you want to call this cheating, then if you're a Sparty or a Buckeye, but you better be careful before you call a spade a spade. It's just not. It's irritating. So we'll see what happens. I think in the long run, he's going to get maybe a game or two, possibly. I don't think he's the kind of guy that will run because of this. I think it's just the opposite. He's not going to be pushed out of anything. I'm going to say this, and I believe this with all my heart, and until it happens, I guess we'll see if I'm right. I just think Michigan needs to step up. They need to step up now. The president, Ward Manuel, pay the guy. He took it like a man. He took, I don't know what the pay cut, it was probably half his salary. He had everybody calling for his name, and he went in there, took it, did what he needed to do. It's time to reward the guy. He is not being paid anything close to Mel Tucker, to any of these guys. And Michigan's probably the second program in the nation, right? Best program in the nation.
Since COVID, he's 25-3.
What's Georgia? Do you know? They lost. What did they lose? One game last year. So I don't know. They're probably close to the same, a little bit better. But you take Georgia. Michigan's the only Georgia and Michigan are the only teams that have been in the playoffs 2 years in a row. Michigan is there. So what's going to happen if they lose? Jim Harbaugh. Don't panic, people. Okay, it might hurt for a little bit, but we'll find somebody. And Michigan will be okay. Michigan will be fine. But I'm telling you, I still believe Harbaugh's not going anywhere. What say you?
Yeah, he's probably not going anywhere. I think he's just entertaining the thought of leaving, but I don't think he will leave.
He's got an agent now. This is about pride. He wants the money not because he wants the money. He wants the money because he deserves the money. And I just believe everything will be okay. So this week, a lot of news in Michigan as far as portal and NFL drafts. We'll start with Andrel Anthony. Your thoughts on that? I think he should have stayed. I think this year could have been a big year, but you never know. It's in a loaded wide receiver room, and he just didn't show much other than really one game when you really look at it.
Yeah,
and I love the guy. I love the kid.
Yeah.
I love his attitude. But
yeah, he had just too many drop passes, and I'm guessing that's why they didn't utilize him that much this year. And when you drop passes, well, don't expect to get into the ball game.
No, that Illinois game, that was a huge hit off his face mask. And, he had seven receptions this year. And he was just not getting open. When he was open, he was dropping passes. And at Michigan, you're not going to get, you may get a second chance. You're not going to get third and fourth chances. So, again, I love the kid. I hope he finds he's talent, and I think he'll be good wherever he wants. That letter he wrote on was he just kept going on and on and on about how much he loved me. And I respect that. You could tell he genuinely, people really like Jim Harbaugh. If our guy, Cade McNamara and all would have done something, maybe not that in depth, but just said, thank you, fans. Good luck. They were captains. They could have done something decent like that. So that's the way you leave. And then, of course, we got our boy, Ronnie Bell. I don't think anybody really thought he was going to come for a sixth year. Do you?
No. I knew he was gone after this season.
Where do you think he's going in the NFL?
I think he'll be late first round or early second round.
Yeah, I think he'll be a second rounder. I don't think he'll be a first rounder, but he's not the stereotype. Although nowadays the NFL is starting to go these shorter, quicker, possession type receivers.
Yeah,
So,
Ronnie Bell is definitely a yards after catch guy.
Yeah, and NFL is going to love players like that. Lions don't really need them, but we'd always take them. But I don't know. We're picking the first 2 rounds. In the first round, we got 2 picks, and I don't think we got to go all defense, of course. Who else? Anybody else? Oh, we're waiting on Corum. What do you think is going to happen? What's your prediction on Blake? I believe right now he's truly 50-50. I really don't.
No. If he genuinely wants to make the NFL, I think he has to come back. Due to the fact that he's coming off a legit injury, he's coming off a surgery,
and he'll make more money.
No one's gonna take a chance on somebody like that, especially when they don't see what he can do after the surgery.
Yeah.
So I feel like he has to come back in order to prove that he is NFL worthy.
Well, from what I hear, he's been talking to his players. He doesn't want to leave them. He's like, guys, can we win it? And I think he'll make a bit. I love him, but if he goes to the NFL, that's his choice. But I think it'll be a mistake. Now, if he didn't get injured, he was gone. I mean, and he should have been gone. He couldn't have done anything else. But if he comes back, can you imagine Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum with JJ back there and some of these receivers? It's just going to be a fun season. Got my season tickets and I'm ready to go. What are you picking next year? If you had to pick right now, say does it matter if Harbaugh's back or not as far as where Michigan goes next year?
Yes.
Okay. He announces he's going to Denver. What happens to Michigan? What's their record next year?
Probably 9-3 or 10-2.
You really think they're gonna who are they gonna lose to?
You got Minnesota next year. You got Ohio State next year. You got Michigan State next year. I believe genuinely with how stacked Michigan State's transfer portal class is right now. They're gonna be a completely different team next year, I think.
Dan, I totally disagree. I don't think with or without him, Michigan is going 10-1, 11-0, or 12-0, 11-1. It's always going to be a tough game against Ohio State, but they said that same thing about this year. Well, Iowa and some of these teams. Michigan's going undefeated into Ohio State next year, and Ohio State's at home. Michigan State will be better, but I see Michigan State 8-4 maybe if they have a good season, they're going 8-4. But having said that, what I'm worried about is some of these players leaving if Harbaugh doesn't clear this up soon. I even heard some of the higher guys like if he doesn't make an announcement in the next few days, yes or no, they could be gone. I think a number of players could go because this could hurt a lot. It's not that he's going or not going. Just make a decision. That's my thing. Just go or stay.
Yeah.
And why if he I didn't care when he made his announcement. I was, you know what, they're going after him. I'm okay with all that. But when he just said 2 days ago what he said, and he's taking an interview, that doesn't make any sense to me. It just I don't like that. But we'll have to see. So, and before we go, we're going to touch on the game we should be talking about. It should be Michigan. Can you know how close we were to Michigan, Ohio State? 2 plays.
Yeah.
2 plays, and it's the game of the. I don't think it's ever a bigger game.
The Ohio State game, I knew what was going to happen because I felt like the college football playoff committee needed Georgia, so I knew that like they were going to drive it down the field and miss the last second field goal, and it was just going to be like this tremendous act by Georgia and whatnot.
That was a terrible kick, by the way. That was just nasty.
Yeah, it was like 40 yards to the left. It was
as far left as it was just terrible.
And so, I mean, they've only had one back-to-back champ in the college football playoff era. So I feel like they needed Georgia to be there for TV ratings and so many other things. So yeah, I got Georgia destroying TCU
Well, and I said that to somebody.
because without so you got to think, okay, Michigan would have scored in the end zone all 3 times within the 5.
It's 28
5 yard.
points, easily 28 point.
Yep.
And how often do you do pick sixes? It doesn't happen. You just do not do 2 pick sixes, and you score 2 of the
After
3.
the second one, I told you that they needed to pull McCarthy. After the second one, he was just costing us he was making too many mistakes. He was just making too many errors. And then he came out the second half, and he looked a lot better. And then as the game went on, they were doing that back and forth. And then he just charged down the field multiple times. And I was like, okay, they have a chance. And then they got that fumbled snap. And it's only a Michigan thing.
What a
that would
crazy
happen.
end. Have you ever seen an ending like that? And then all of a sudden I'm leaving,
And then
and
you
I'm like,
got-
stop. They may have targeting. I didn't even see the targeting in the live. And the TCU people right behind me are like, oh, that's definitely. Everybody I heard said that was targeting. We got one more play. And I sat, I knew
It was
we
still
had
26 seconds left.
Yeah. And they'd have been at the 50, 45, I don't know where exactly, right around the 45
Yeah, it
yard
would have
line.
been a 15-yard penalty.
Yeah.
Like
And they were at
automatically.
I think the 35, so they're at midfield. You throw a little 20, 30 yard, and then you got a 20, 30 yard for the win. You got 3, maybe 4 plays.
No, that's about 5,
Well-
depending on how long
Well,
they take
how
to
you
develop.
use it, if you get sacked, game's over because they don't have any timeout. So it's, the point is not to argue whether they had 3. They deserved a second chance. And Joe Klatt, kudos to him, because people think you can't have played bad and messed up and still had the refs screw you. Both can be true.
Yep.
And no one's going to tell me that wasn't targeting. And that touchdown, that play, I already mentioned that, just drives me batty. Joe Klatt had a great podcast on that the referees got to be fixed. We need a national referee system where the Big Ten is not playing refs
Well, not only that, it was extremely biased for them to have an Ohio State alumni as the main ref
How
in
do you
a
do that?
game.
How is
Like
that
of this
possible?
magnitude. And so, I mean, he was the one who overturned the touchdown. He was the one that overturned or declined the targeting call.
Exactly.
So he made extremely crucial mistakes because he cost us the game, especially when the line judge was like, yeah, touchdown. And then he's like, no, we're going to go back and look at
He's
it.
going to decide over. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And when that happens, I feel like there should be like the NFL. They have a secondary source in a completely different state looking at these as well, helping
Exactly.
the refs on the field.
Not
at
the
that very
same
moment.
refs who
Exactly.
screwed you to look at it. And I'm telling you, answer this question. I'll answer it first. If I'm a referee and I love Michigan, I went to Michigan, and I see a play that I could maybe overturn it against Ohio State. If it's kind of close, I'm gonna do. I probably would do, even if I didn't mean to do it. I think I would just do it. You know what I mean?
Well, no,
I
if
wouldn't wanna
it's a
ref
touchdown,
Ohio
no,
State
well,
game because
no.
I couldn't be fair.
Well, if it's a touchdown, it's a touchdown. Like if you see somebody say, "Hey, it's a touchdown," I'm gonna trust the process, and it's a touchdown, even if it's Ohio State. It could be Michigan State. It could be anybody.
Well, touchdowns. Yeah.
And like, they earned it. A touchdown is a touchdown. Like they earned those 6 points. And so I don't
You know what
know.
I
It
think? I
was
think
just
these
extremely
referees should be
frustrating.
held accountable when they call
should-
that.
they
They
should
should
be-
be in a press Why? What was your reasoning
Yeah.
for calling that? Make them see. They can make any call right now and get away with it. Now these guys, they got. I don't know if they got suspended, they got fined, but there was a suspension or a fine for that one ref. I just read about. So
Should be.
They should be. So I'm glad with that. It's so sad. These are 19, 20-year-old kids playing their heart out and have the game. Again, that's not the only thing that happened, but we're not talking about Michigan's play call. We're talking about the refs right now. That was just, and that's, changing subjects for a second. That's kind of worries me about tonight with the Lions and the Packers. They never get, NFL wants Green Bay there. The Lions get screwed every time in these places. Oh, well, it's obviously true. They're talking about it.
Well, no. Detroit's the hottest team in the NFL right now.
I'm not saying
everybody,
Detroit can't
everybody
beat, but
is
the
like,
NFL wants.
Everybody is rooting for Detroit right now. I think, including the NFL.
No.
Because if the Seahawks lose tonight and Detroit wins, they're in.
Yeah, but the NFL put Green Bay. They flexed them up because of Green Bay, not because of the Lions. I'm listening all day to these national. All I hear is, "Oh, Green Bay's 4 in a row, and this and this," and they've beaten. They beat the Bears, they beat the Rams. The only good victory was Minnesota. I've just had it with Aaron Rodgers, and I've had it with Green Bay, and I've had it with all these national announcers. But some of them are picking Detroit, and they're like, "Oh, they're so shocked that they could pick Detroit. Like, we have no chance."
I genuinely think Detroit runs down Green Bay's throat tonight.
Well,
the way Jamal Williams has been playing, the way DeAndre Swift has come out of his shell finally in the last couple weeks, and the way Goff has been hitting, the defense is catching fire just at the right time. I have them beating Sharon Rodgers.
Well, it's gonna be it's 30 degrees, but it's not gonna be rainy. I mean, 30 is cold, but that's not like zero. So I think, but I am nervous because last time they were outside and Green Bay's been running good. That rush defense needs to step up. But I'll tell you what, if Green Bay, if the Lions win, and Seattle wins, I'm okay with it. I don't want it, but if we beat Green Bay and keep them out, to me, we won a championship of some kind. I'm good. We just got to win. I don't want to lose. I want to make the playoffs. That's really important. But I just want to beat Green Bay and shut those guys up. I am just had it with Green Bay. But anyway, kind of turn to the Lions here a second. But before we go, so TCU, Georgia, I agree with you. I don't think Georgia's going to make the mistakes Michigan made. Michigan should have beat them by 28. They just should have. They could have with those plays. So I hope TCU makes it close because I like a close game, but I'm taking Georgia 34 to 13. 34-13. I think it's going to be. Change that. 34-21. It's going to be a little closer. I think TCU, Duggan is a good quarterback.
I got Georgia 35-13.
Oh, so you're where I was at first. It could be. I wouldn't be shocked, but I wouldn't be shocked if TCU makes it a little closer too. So we'll see. Unfortunately, we're not talking about Michigan and Georgia or Michigan, Ohio State. Before we go, you were at the Michigan game. What's your thoughts on Michigan basketball? Before MSU, but including the game you saw. What's your overall thoughts?
They're a good team, when they want to be. But I mean, when you shoot, however they did yesterday,
3 for 18,
it was absolutely atrocious. And you dig yourself a hole, and then you try in the second half, with 5 minutes left, and you try your hardest, but you didn't before. It's not how basketball works. That's not how any sport works. And yeah, you're probably not going to come out with a victory.
And even down the road, they weren't hitting those threes. Hunter hit that 1 3, and I don't know if they hit one in the second half. They started out with a couple. How do you see? The thing that makes me happy and also disgusts me is before that, I wasn't watching a lot. I mean, football was going on, but their defense was atrocious. Michigan, they were playing no defense. They're all young kids just running. And the last 3 games, I mean, to hold MSU to 50, what was the score? 54 to 57, 51, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that. So their defense played great. State didn't do anything great either, except played good defense. Eventually, we're going to start hitting those shots. I just got to imagine our offense will come. So we could be a decent team. I think we will make the NCAA. I'm more hopeful now than I was before. But we'll see. But that was a rough game yesterday. And then Tom Izzo, that was for you, Mel Tucker. Did you hear that? That was for you, Mel Tucker. What does that mean? Think he deserved something because his players are all criminals? I don't know. So anyway, what we're going to be doing, we're going to kind of be, I don't know the regular schedule, but we'll be on and off for Michigan basketball throughout the season, especially now the Big Ten season is coming up. we'll have an occasional podcast when Michigan had some kind of announcement. I'll be doing some individual podcasts. Do you plan on doing?
Yes.
So Nate here will be doing some individual too. So it'll be off and on, and we'll continue it till next year. And I just can't wait till next year. I don't want time to go by, but I am so pumped for next year. Hopefully the Lions are in the playoffs, and probably we're going to start our Lion podcast. Probably maybe. Spring camp, we'll start doing a separate Lions podcast and get into that. Until then, I hope you all have a great new year. Please like and subscribe to our podcast. It means a ton to me. I hope the guys that got those tickets enjoyed the tickets. And I always ask, if we give out something, just please use them so they're not going to waste. So, Anthony, we appreciate you getting the tickets and enjoying the game. You take care. Go Blue. And thanks, Nate. And any last thoughts?
Nope, not
Okay.
really.
Okay,
Not
we'll be
really.
touch base here in the next week or two. Go Blue.
Go
Bye-bye.
Blue.